All right, I'd like to call the town board meeting of the town of Lake Mills to order December 8th, 2015 at 8 p.m. at the town hall. The notice was published in the Lake Mills Leader on December 2nd and posted at the town hall, the North End Boat Launch, and the cul-de-sac on Finch Brothers Road, and also on the town's website on December 1st. A motion to adopt the agenda as published.
You want to add that last stuff? Operating license or not?
Oh, is that what we're going to do? Oh, you can tell me the name. We are going to add one more operator's license to the batch that we are doing tonight. Would you explain that, Sarah?
Sure, it was in the mail the day that I came and put packets in the boxes, so I just thought we could
Batch it
get
out.
it in there.
And it's
We've got three others.
Michelle
Michelle
Morgan.
Morgan. That would be what? E? 8E?
Okay,
Unless you want to do them all in order.
no, let's do it that way. So we'll add Michelle Morgan's petition. She's petitioning for the London Depot as the last item in AE. I would make a motion to adopt the agenda as corrected.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as added to, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. The approval of the minutes. And I think we should take this in two sections because we have the public hearing and then the special meeting of the electors and then the monthly board meeting. So,
3 times, right?
yeah, I think that's the way we should do it.
I'll make a motion to approve November 10th public hearing minutes.
And I'll second that. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes from the public hearing on November 10th, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. The special meeting of the Board of Electors on November 10th, I also will make a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the special meeting of the electors on November 10th, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Thank you. And then the monthly board minutes following that hearing and the special meeting of the electors, again on November 10th, 2015. I would motion to approve the minutes of that meeting.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes for the monthly board meeting in November, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Thanks, you guys. Now, on to the treasurer's report. Sharon,
I'll make a motion to approve December's treasurer's report.
I'll second.
is there any discussion on the December 2015 treasurer's report?
Just a little bit. What I was wondering is, if we subtract what we cash applied to balance the budget, and then the carryover for snow plowing, did you fiddle with that at all, Sarah, to see how much money we have
I
left?
started to update the budget to actual. We don't have all of the December receivables yet. I mean, we only have a week in, so.
Okay.
So I know I
Okay.
have not. I was planning to present that in January.
Okay, I kind of figured that's what was gonna happen, but one thing I was kind of thinking, hoping Lee is, I was wondering if we take whatever we need to cash apply to balance the budget, if we have some left, what would you guys think of taking the balance of that money and putting it into the capital outlay reserve?
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, we have to wait to see if there's some
Yeah.
left, but,
Right, no, I'd be fine with
you
that.
know,
And it's going to be weather dependent.
right, yeah.
What are you looking to?
Yeah, what
buy?
are you thinking about, Dave?
You just never know. You just never know. Things don't.
You just
last
want to keep
forever.
that nest egg growing, huh?
Yep.
All right.
And
Well-
at $5,500 a year. Well, I guess what I was down the road, the tractor's not going to last forever, and you're putting money away for the police car. And you figure if you were to buy a new tractor or a better used upgrade with a mower, maybe even a brush mower on it, you're probably talking $50,000. So, not really particularly earmarking it, but at the same time, if something comes, other than that, that's it.
Want you to,
Did you know about that?
I did,
Okay.
I did.
I always also want you to note here, Compass Minerals, this is a change in the policy there. I mean, that it hasn't always been Compass Minerals, but we do have 65.91 tons of road salt in the shed. So we should be well stocked for the winter. Just wondered if you guys had caught that that is a
I
different
saw it.
vendor than we usually are
No, I
writing
think they
checks
just
for.
changed their name.
Yeah, well,
Right,
really,
right.
there's
Just a
only
change.
Yeah.
2 companies that have salt, Cargill and these guys.
All right, so all in favor of approving the vouchers to the tune of $39,198.01, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. That part is passed. Item 6 are the reports. A is the police report.
Month of November, we kind of didn't have a lot of activity, obviously due to most of my guys are deer hunters and Thanksgiving. We had 30.25 hours of road patrol, we had 9.5 hours of radar, handled 4 complaints for service, issued 15 citations, 10 warnings, and we assisted 1 motorist and assisted 1 other department with a backup.
Okay, any questions for Matt? How's it going, Matt?
It's going good,
All right.
it's going fantastic.
Appreciate it. Item B is the Joint Rock Lake Committee report. I guess I'll give that since none of those guys are here. They did meet this month, and we had as guests Rob Getz and Bill Kiesling from the Sanitary Sewer Department. And they were talking about the reasoning, the causes, and the warning system for beach closures from high levels of fecal coliform and also for swimmer's itch. So they're looking a little bit at the signage and trying to grasp the testing devices and the mechanisms and the timing and who does what. It was kind of interesting in the fact that the sanitary sewer department is doing most of the testing and the closures at Sandy Beach and the public beaches, but the sanitarian, the Jefferson County Sanitarian, is doing the testing on the town's beaches. And I thought it was very interesting that I'd never received any testing results. So I think we have a little ways to go. This was kind of a collecting thing. Also, they are working to understand how the public gets information on beach closures and what that means for summer school swimming lessons and other kinds of activities at the beach. So that was kind of interesting. That committee would like to look at all the lake ordinances in the next year and mostly over the winter and do some tweaking on those. So as a board, perhaps we could take a look at those too. I'd like them to kind of take a kick at the can and look at what we have on the books. They're wanting to include some information on inflatable swimming platforms and the definition of that. And also of note is the ordinance on ice driving, which is about 2 paragraphs long and really remains on our books but has not really truly been enforced. So I think they'd like to look at those things over the course of the winter. Other than that, nothing else cooking with the Joint Rock Lake Committee. The Planning Commission.
Yeah, did not meet in December, did meet in November, so it's 2 months in a row.
No.
Really haven't had anything
There
on
will
your
be in
plate.
January.
Yeah, there'll be
we've got
something on your
coming
plate.
Okay.
Are there any other committees?
Clean boards, clean boards, clean water.
Yeah, let's talk about Clean Boats, Clean Waters.
I completed the payment request for the 2015 completion of the grant. I need you to sign that later. And Patricia, you and Patricia worked on the application for 2016.
We've been adding in our volunteerism hours, the time it takes Sarah to pull things together, the time it's taken us or me to do some interviewing and other teamwork that we did in order to hire for Clean Boats. Basically what we decided to do was not request the full amount of money. We decided to split that with the city. We still are obligated to spend, 200 plus hours at the North End boat launch. We think this will give us good coverage for this year. We wanted to get the grant in early. I believe the due date is December 10th, so we're gonna just be getting in on the cusp. We're pretty much guaranteed to get the money in. It seems to have been no problem for us to administer it in the past. What has been a problem is finding the right people to fill the spaces. So you all heard that we were not going to have Bud, our veteran, back next year, so we thought we should start advertising early and work towards the goal once we know we have the grant under control.
First year, we got great candidates.
Yeah, we just had we've had trouble each year with some, one thing or another.
Well, they did manage to get 275.75 hours at the launches between June and September.
So we fulfilled the goal there, and it's with many thanks to Patricia that we apply. I think she worked closely with the city too, and I think that at this point we have all pushed the submit button.
Yep. Yes, we have.
So hopefully that will come through. Anything else? Item number 7 is a period of public comment and question for anything that is not on the agenda. If anyone in the audience would like to make a comment to the board or have something placed on a future agenda, please speak now. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, review of applications filed. The first item, A, is the discussion and decision on an operator's license for Selena M. Holida at the Lake Mills Travel Plaza. I believe this is one of the operator's license we discussed last month.
Yes.
I guess, what's your pleasure, you guys?
Well, I guess I'll make a motion to approve.
All right,
We're okay, Matt?
We are?
Okay.
Yeah.
all right. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
All right, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the operator's license for Selena M. Holida, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
And those opposed? I oppose this. But her application license is passed. B, discussion and decision on an operator's application for Michael Pollock at the Lake Mills Travel Plaza. This is new paperwork you have in front of you. Matt, have you had a chance to look at this?
I have.
All right. Is there anything you want to bring forward?
Nothing new from the last time.
All right. I will make a motion to accept the application for operator's license for Michael Pollock at the Lake Mills Travel Plaza. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
I was kind of curious on, have you been convicted of a felony or violation of any law in the state of Wisconsin or in the United States? And it circled yes without a nature of offense.
It's on the back.
It was on the back. And I think we sent that one back the last time for the
Yeah.
first time.
Okay. Cause all I have,
There it is.
the backpack.
Right here,
Oh,
backpack,
okay.
I
yeah.
have a letter here
All right, okay.
Well, you got the letter, yeah.
that we sent back.
All right, I didn't flip it over.
And that was
Okay,
in June.
I
yeah.
didn't look at that either.
Two things.
Yeah, he sent that back. I mean, I sent him the letter and his application back. And then he put this little Post-it note that you see copied in the middle with his
Okay.
explanation of his, yes.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion? Man. All in favor of approving the operator's application for Michael Pollock at the Lake Mills Travel, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign.
Aye.
So this application is denied. Item C, discussion and decision on an operator's application for Tara Strasberg at the Lake Mills Travel Plaza.
I'll make a motion to approve Tara's operator's license.
And I will second that. Is there any discussion? I'm gonna look at the back of these
Yeah,
papers
that's
a lot
I'm
more
looking
closely
at the
from now on.
back. No, well, that was it. What's the deal? Yeah, that was in my mind.
All right, all in favor of approving Tara Strasburg's applicators, or operator's license, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Her application is passed.
Did you
Um,
ask- Sorry.
uh,
We didn't ask Matt about that one.
Well, I didn't see any reason to ask Matt about that one. I
Oh,
figured
I'm
he'd
sorry.
tell us.
Right, there was nothing.
Okay,
No.
jumped the gun.
We're looking at the paper again, though. Item, oh,
It's,
there's one more.
yeah, one of
Yeah,
the-
We're gonna do that one first, or we're gonna
Yeah.
wait till
No,
after we
let's
do
just-
Knickerbocker?
we're on it. Let's go.
All right, let's do Michelle Morgan. So Michelle Morgan has applied for an operator's license at the London Depot. Have you had time to check this one out, Matt?
I have.
I would make a motion to approve the operator's license for Michelle M. Morgan at London Depot.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
We're all good?
Yeah.
Hearing no discussion, a voice vote. All in favor of approving the operator's license, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. Finally, item E, discussion and decision on a request to hold a special event by the Lake Mills Main Street Program for the Knickerbocker Ice Festival on February 6th, 2016. Since I'm the chairman of this event, I'm expecting that there won't be any pushback.
Wow.
Things are pretty much the same as they were before. Katie has filled out the application for us. There is no alcohol involved. This ice festival and the activities on the waters of Rock Lake will happen only if there are frozen solid waters of Rock Lake. So we have to go forward from there.
I'll make a motion to approve the special events application for the Knickerbockers 2016 Ice Festival.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right. Is there any discussion? As in the past, we've had great cooperation from both the town and the city police, and also the participants in the festival at the beach, the DNR. We've had a great festival. Hope the weather is good again this year. Expect to have the same happy participation.
Just need ice.
And we just need ice, right? So all in favor of approving the special event permit, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Moving on, item 9, discussion, old business. Discussion and decision on Wolf Paving invoice over bid price. I see there are quite a few Wolf t-shirts in the crowd, so. I guess I would begin the discussion by asking you guys to introduce yourselves, and I guess I'll explain what I think that has happened in this case, and I'm sure that you guys will have some things to say. We went about bidding and breaking down the price on London Road last spring, shortly after our annual meeting, and we had 2 bids come in, one from Wolf Paving and the other one from Payne and Dolan. Both contractors were in the audience, as were all of us. We accepted a bid for London Road for $434.04. $434,000. And that's what we set forth to do. I thought that it was understood, and after having reviewed the contract many, many times, I believe that we went forward in good faith with Wolf Paving and did the work that we spec'd. And when we received the bill, it was anything but the bid price that we had gone forward with. Other arrangements that we made in the town, because we do not have the money ourselves to rearrange this reconstruction, or any grants or other monies to utilize, we went forward and borrowed in good faith the $435,000 from the state trust fund in order to pay for the project. We did not borrow $455,000. I believe that we have operated in the terms of the bid, and I believe that Wolf Paving would disagree with that.
Correct.
Did I sum that up?
Yeah.
And where we go from here, I guess I would be entertain any comments that you guys have.
I'm Julie Messmer. I'm the sales manager for Northwest Sun Prairie and the Oconomowoc locations.
Steve Taylor, project manager in charge of that job out of Madison.
And I'm Rob Eigel. I was salesman, estimator for the job.
And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just hand this out as
Sure.
just so that we are kind of all on the same page. The top of the page is just a breakdown. It's just a breakdown of basically what the estimated quantities were for the roadway and then what the actual came out to be. Any particular municipal project that is done on a quantity basis, you are actually invoiced at the actual. So that's why when you see the line item on the first one where it said add 4-inch base course to roadway and shoulders, estimated was 7,341 tons at the 775, which would have came out to the $56,892. In actuality, we only put down 6,664 tons, and you were only invoiced for the actual. And that is basically how the contract is read, and when we work with any particular municipality, as far as that, there isn't anything in the contract documents that says, is it a lump sum bid? When we hear lump sum, we know that we can't, it's not a quantity bid, it's not a per quantity bid, so then it would be like we can't reach beyond that lump sum. When we get these type of bid documents, and attached also is just what is in the contract from Lake Mills, the 2 highlighted areas, and what we were talking about directly, because the item that is at most questioned is the last item on the front page, which is to furnish and install the 2-foot shoulders on both sides of the road, London Road being the road. And as you see, as the bid item estimated, the quantity there is 1,470 tons, and in actuality, we put down 2,319.50 tons of material. And the reason that came out to that, and we have the backup documentation here that Steve himself had discussion and followed up with email, was that there are shoulder areas that were from 7 inches to 6 feet in depth. So that created having to add more material to those shoulders to create the shoulders that the town wanted to happen with the 2-foot shoulder. Is there any questions with kind of what I've just said right now, or does everything kind of follow? Does everybody follow along with what I've said? The big,
So explain this again to me. I'm looking at your document, the very last line with the 2-foot shoulders. And I'm looking at the contract that we have in front of us with the furnish and install 2-foot shoulders.
Correct, with your estimated quantity of
Right.
the 1,470 tons, and the actual placed quantity being the 2,319.50 tons.
So almost double that.
And that's why there was discussion via Steve and meeting on site as well to talk about what was going on with the shoulders, why they need to be brought up, and what the depth was going to do, how they were going to add in the quantity. If Steve wants to.
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Sure.
On that quantity, the original quantities that you guys had bid estimate was for, since we raised the road 7.5 inches, was to go from 7.5 inches down to nothing for your shoulders. well, I'm sure most of you know since you live in Lake Mills, probably 75 to 80% of that road did not have a shoulder to begin with. And the width of the road ranged between 16.5 feet out to 21 feet. The bid document said to make the road 19 feet with a 2-foot shoulder, a constant 19 feet on the complete project. So with that said, when you got to grading it, adding the 7.5 inches, where you did have the drop-offs that were greater than 7.5 inches, which was a majority of the road, and at some areas was 5 to 6 feet deep, that quantity wasn't reflected in the estimate. And this estimate quantity was given to us through you guys as far as an estimated quantity for the shoulder. After I figured the quantities out, that was figured out at 7.5 inches to nothing, and not in consideration that most of the shoulder varied between the 7.5 inches in a few areas up to 6 feet in some of the deeper areas to make that 2-foot shoulder. So with that said, to make your 2-foot shoulder on that 19-foot road, there's the quantities that we put in there is what it took to establish a 2-foot shoulder, which with that said, for safety factors, if that's not in place, you would have a 6-foot drop off right at the edge of your road. So we all, I think, would understand that the 2-foot shoulder is a common thing used in Wisconsin. So the discrepancy with the tonnages is because of that depth in the shoulder. When we made the road, the constant 19 feet the whole way.
And at the special meeting when it was awarded, Dennis Mungy brought up that concern, saying like, you know, we're widening the road.
Just a second. Dennis Mungy is the Paine and Dolan representative who would likewise be in Rob's position.
He brought it up, and I tried to look up on the website to see if it was videotaped, and it wasn't. But I mean, I called Dennis.
That particular meeting.
Yeah, that particular meeting wasn't videotaped. And I called Dennis, talked to him about it, and he kind of echoed what I was thinking, and was kind of surprised about the problem. So.
Yeah. We actually came in because that was a 2-lift process on that road. I brought my guys in just because of the areas that were 5 to 6 foot deep, but it is a safety factor and a hazard, that we shouldered that road right after the binder course because there is a law between the surface and the binder. So we actually had 2 or 3 modes to do that when it should have been in 1, which we didn't charge you guys for that. We did that as a safety factor, knowing that that is a danger to have that shoulder drop off. So we actually mowed 3 times to do that shoulder without a charge to you guys. We just charged you for the work we did. So just to let you know.
And that's true, and I appreciate that. The only thing is when you did the original, the first shouldering after your first lift, that should have been the first indication that you guys were gonna be way over on tons, because that's when you use the largest amount of your tons. And I know Rob had said we got a choice. We're going to have 1 or 2 project managers, and this is the first time that I've met you. A couple of you guys from the crew had stopped up to the shop and had questions, but this would be the first time that I've ever met you or heard anything
I
about
made
you.
many calls, and it was hard to get a call back and forth, other than emails to Hope.
Mm-hmm.
But I have tried to call you, contact you many times with no success.
So when you guys were doing the gravel, did you keep throwing all the tickets in a pile, and then when you got all done, you did all the adding of the tons? Because again, I think when you went through the first time, there would have been a key indication that you were going to be over, and I don't think we'd really be having a problem if we would have knew that up front coming in. Because now on this document here that you have, this is the first time we've ever seen an estimate. One of the reasons and it's too bad it's not on the tape.
The estimate comes right from your document.
Your documents say estimate.
That estimate.
That is your document.
Your original contract document says on the top estimated quantity.
Quantity.
I've been through this a million times. I don't see that in here. I don't.
Was he talking about this, that you guys came up with a
Right.
special meeting?
Yeah, because I didn't see that either. Even on, Rob, those emails that you had sent me on the correspondence you had with Hope, and Hope did agree to, pay extra money, but that was for that particular, the way I read the email was for that particular fire sign area on where your roller went off.
That was.
But I didn't think that was a
But that
blanket.
wasn't the
Yeah, that
only-
wasn't the only area that was 6 foot deep.
Oh, right, yeah, I understand that.
I mean, that just happened to be the one area where our roller actually slid on its side because of the steepness of the
Sure.
bank.
Yep.
And that's how it was noticed, because the stone had been pushed out. But there was numerous areas down through that road, which I'm sure all you know, that are 4 to 6 foot deep. That just happened to be one that we had a roller actually tip over.
Right, yeah. But your guy was okay, wasn't
Yeah, no one got hurt. Thank God.
he? Yeah.
We're just looking, I mean, like I said, we did work there that didn't charge you as far as the mows. We placed the stone, we gave the 2 foot shoulder, and if it was something that needed done, you couldn't leave that shoulder the way it was. That's an unfortunate thing that it wasn't foreseen before we did the job, but we were going just off of what your tickets or what your quantities that were given to us.
Well, I've been over this contract a number of times. I don't see any estimated quantity language in it. I guess when we let this bid, we were of the impression that that would be the way we would go, and that when you came back to us, you would be either under or over, but we had no indication through the whole process that we would be $18,000 over. I think it's a great overage. It's something we're not used to working with. And I told you before, we borrowed the money to do this project. We did not borrow $455,000. We borrowed $435,000.
And
And that's what-
likewise, we put the money and the people out there to do the work to have a safe roadway for you. And, you know, we have to also make money on what we're doing. And it's not like that we're making tons of money for a project either. So, I mean,
The only question I would have is, if you were notified as we were doing this that it was gonna be over because of the shoulder being a lot more than 7.5 inches, up to 6 feet in areas, what would your guys have been decision to do at that point?
Well, I guess we would have had to call a special meeting and tried to make some decisions.
Would you have left the shoulder off the edge of the road 6 foot deep?
Probably not. We would have had to make a decision, but you did not inform us of that.
Well, this was unknown because you can't, we're going off your estimates, so it was an unknown quantity until we were actually doing the work. So,
and,
Yes.
and like, just go to the hazard portion of it. If you were to do a work stoppage at that point, and we've been in this situation numerous different times, and that's why you have estimated and actual, and we have the tickets to give to you so that you know that went into your work. But the point being is that you don't want to stop workage type thing if you had a situation of safety issues with, even just that a roller situation happened and that was unforeseen, but, you know, you wouldn't want your public, obviously, right, driving on that road that way as well. So we want to leave you and in a good state as well, and the, you know, and the community.
I guess I feel disappointed in the fact that we weren't communicated with. You know, until I received the packet of the gravel slips and the original final bill, there was no knowledge that we had exceeded the budget by $18,000. And that's where the disappointment comes in.
Sure, and I can empathize with that. I guess, you know, communication is always challenging, especially when you're working at such a pace that to try to make sure that you're getting everything that is done within a work week and a work day as well. So, and roadways are a safety issue. So we feel that, you know, we've done the best that we can for you, for the community and the public, and that's how we've approached and continue always to approach any work on roadways.
And I'll agree with you. You guys came through and they hustled right along. Your flag people, they were courteous, you know, and you guys started early and you just trugged all the way through it. So I don't think that, you know, there's a problem there.
Can I ask a question on this sheet that you've given us? Why is the $51,000 in the top column, total invoice, why is that in red?
It was just something that was, I wanted it to stand out so that you could, that everybody could.
Lower than the bidded price.
Correct.
Yeah.
We were charging it full.
Correct, we were charging actual, and, you know, so whoever worked up the bid quantities, you know, came up with that, and came up with the 7,341 initially, but of course, we're only gonna charge you for the work that we performed, and so that's why I was.
When you pulverize a road like we did and add stone to it, that pulverization of the existing asphalt actually makes it grows, it actually makes it, you got to gain an inch and a half of actual material. So with that said, it's hard to get that quantity as far as that first quantity
Exact.
exact. So the amount of material was there, and how depth, the depth of the pulverization when they pulverized it, it gave to the elevations, because we shot and surveyed the elevations. And that's the stone that was needed to get that 7.5 inch raise, so that's what I was thinking.
I guess one reason I put that in red is because after watching the meeting you were talking about, when you talked to somebody from the town of Oakland about how Payne and Dolan was under on stone quantities and how they asked if they could use up the rest, he was asking to use up the rest because he wouldn't have got paid for it. If he would have just stopped there, he would have got paid, wouldn't have, you know, the $2,000 less, yeah. So of course he's gonna wanna use it up, he's got it, he wants to burn it up and get paid for the full contract.
I've worked for Wolf Paving for 6.5 years, and I can say that, you know, integrity is number one, and it's not anything that we were intentionally trying to, you know, it's intentionally trying to do. This is how all municipal bids are treated, and that's why you have quantities. 5 people can go out and measure a road, and you'll get 5 different measurements. You know, that's kind of just how it works. That's why you have the portion of the estimated, and then when you can get the actual, which gets proven by the tickets and the votes.
And if it was lump sum, we wouldn't get quantity.
Right, if it was a lump sum bid, we wouldn't even have to provide you with tickets.
I still am disappointed in the fact that we accepted a lower, actually, the Payne and Dolan bid was actually much closer to what it actually cost to do that. And, of course, we were operating in a prudent way, trying to take the lowest bid. And I'm still disappointed that we didn't know ahead of
But
time.
Payne and Dolan would have charged you their unit price, which was higher than our unit prices. And they would have
It's pretty
charged you-
difficult now to go back and compare those two.
They would have charged you actual though.
But they're not gonna install an extra 800 or 1,000 ton of stone for free. I mean, to get that 2-foot shoulder, it needed to be done, and like I said, it's, maybe the communication breakdown, maybe I apologize about that, but I thought it was pretty much, you communicated it in some of the time again.
I guess I don't think you understood what I said, you know. The Payne and Dolan bid was closer to $455,000 than $434,000. And we acted as a board in the most prudent way and took the lowest bid, assuming that that would be the product that would be delivered.
Dennis's shouldering bid, his shouldering price was $20 a ton though. He would have went over and he would have been even more than us.
Yeah, even his extra cost.
That's what I was saying, the unit prices.
But we still have these bid documents, and I consider those a binding contract. And if I bid a culvert replacement and it comes in at $6,534, I don't expect to get a bill for $10,000. I expect to get a bill for $634,000. I mean,
But you're talking about one culvert replacement, and the work is very specific, and it can be done by looking at that versus something that is quantity based.
I still think there was a big breakdown in communication here.
I agree. There's definitely things that can have gone better, and that's one of the things when you're talking about the breakdown of communication in that regard. I think we need to learn from that and then figure out, like, I'm sorry, I didn't know your name. Sir.
Dave.
Dave, if you were the person that we were to be doing some more communicating with, or however that was, we should have figured out how to get a contact with you. Was it email that was the best deal? Was it a phone call that's the best? Text, whatever that, would have been best for your situation. Because you are our customer, and obviously we want to make sure that.
I think some of it was, we live pretty close to that road, and I think a couple of people working down there got that idea, so they would just pop in.
Oh,
if
and
they had
talk to you
questions.
at your house?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I mean, we do, you know, obviously tell our foremen and things like that if they know and have those, you know, have that relationship or can see that relationship, they should communicate what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I mean, the other thing that we could have probably done on this particular spreadsheet on the front is if you had Payne and Dolan's unit prices that are higher, and if they ended up coming out and they come out actual because of the shouldering situation, you would definitely been paying much more for it. If you're trying to compare like an apples to apples situation.
Well, it's almost impossible to do. I guess this must be, and I've heard this from both of you at one time or another, that this is just the way it is, that when you accept a bid, you need to build into it a cushion of estimation. I guess I've never been in this situation before.
I think
We would have to do this.
Sorry. I think especially in this case, because there was no engineer involved. Usually engineers come up with the quantities for us, where Dennis kind of just came up with, called me, you know, how are we close, you know, just for time's sake to put it together. And I think that's the trade-off is when you're saving money from the engineer,
Yeah,
but
not paying
it might not be
outside.
as close because it's a big job to.
And that's the way you're used to working, is with an engineer who specs all of the material ahead of time and estimate.
We work both.
Yeah.
We work both. And I guess that, you know, it's more so like a custom or a standardization, that when you have the quantities that you're estimating them to be, it's more of a standardization, and that is probably a failure of communication, not understanding that we had that miscommunication.
Well, and that's kind of why I've been over and over the contract. I don't see anything in this about an estimate, or I just don't see that in the paperwork. And
Then it's like we said, we wouldn't had to have provided you any tickets or any proof.
4-unit prices, the
Or you-
contract would have
Well, and we-
read them, so.
Right, it could have, the contract could have read lump sum, so I guess a couple of learning possibilities even on your end, if in the future you want only lump sum contracts, not to exceed would be words that need to put in contracts, because I have been in the contract administration portion of not only Wolf Paving but other previous companies, not to exceed this amount. So then we would do, and we've had contracts like that, but what Wolf would do is once we started getting close, we'd tell foremen, they'd have it verbally, they'll have it in writing. We have on-site communication going on too, and we would say, if you get close, you need to do a work stoppage. If you get close to this amount, you have to do yield checks as you go, and they do that. So that would have been instructed to them via the project manager.
it sure would have been helpful on our end if we would have known exactly the amount of money that we needed to borrow to do this. I don't think we can just turn around and go back to the State Department or to the Commissioner of Public Lands and ask for another $18,000. So we're gonna have to come up with this somehow in our budget. So I guess we need to work this out. I'd like a little time to go back over the contracts again. I do appreciate you guys coming. We're breaking down to having just a few major asphalt contractors. And if we're gonna get any work done, it's gonna have to be competitive, and it's gonna have to be communicated on what's going down.
Right.
Go ahead, Dave.
And I would suggest definitely, you know, if you're looking at certain contracts, you continue to operate like you are without an engineer per se, because that does cost a lot of money to have an engineer, outside engineering firm work with you. But definitely to move forward with contracts of not to exceed this amount, this dollar amount, so on and so forth, things like that. And if you would like me to either email or do anything as far as how other contracts are written, I'd be happy to do that, sharing that information with you, so that, you know, it can work towards that. I mean, I don't want to see a township or anything like that struggle or anything like that as well with finances. So if there is something that we can do to even give a little bit of a credit, and I don't know what that would be, I'd have to talk to the owner of Wolf Paving, because we are compassionate when it comes to that as well. So like I said, I don't know how much that would be, but anything obviously would help the whole financial situation and not. And but I also would like to then maybe give you my business card and that kind of thing so we can communicate.
Yeah, we need to have an ongoing discussion about this.
Do you think that this is going to end up being in another board meeting, or what are you thinking?
Well, I'd like to go back over the contract again and look for that language that you were mentioning. I'd like to look at these documents again, share those with our attorney. And go
Lee has
forward.
all this
Yeah.
stuff, right? Yeah.
No, not this. No. This was not available to us.
Right, yeah, because this was the first time we've seen
Yeah,
this.
this top one
Yeah.
is something that we just brought today that I had Rob work out.
As far as like getting an engineer, surveyed, or GPS before the project, before you guys let the project out, that probably would have came out that the quantities on the shouldering would have been a difference between 7.5 inches to up to 5 to 6 feet in the low areas. And that would have showed the quantities
Yeah.
on the original bid document, if it was GPS added on it.
I guess still, first of all, we appreciate all you guys' efforts. You guys did a bang-up job. But at the same time, to me, what you had just said should be an SOP for you guys, that whether it's a bidded job or an estimated job, then when you're going through, you should be keeping track of what you're using, how much, so that you can start to alert people. Every project that we've worked on, other projects, whether it be the fire department or EMS, whenever it's gotten close to where the contractors see it's like, whoa, we think this is going to be a little bit more unless we change something, then we had that opportunity to come in and do that. So I think you should have been doing that anyway. And Rob, I know what your job is, and I know you were new and green coming in, and appreciate it. I bet you're getting a hell of an education, right? But now, Steve, when it comes to this project, when you're out there, what exactly is your role in that project?
I managed the whole project.
Were you there every day? Were you?
I wasn't on the job constantly all day long, 12 or 14.
Yeah, because whenever I cruise down through there, then,
I was on that job. I'm usually in there in the mornings. I also had 8 other projects going at the same time.
Oh, right, yeah, I understand that,
So
yeah.
it's for me to spend my whole time there the whole time. I did try to communicate with you and make phone calls. We got an answering machine at the offices all the time. The only way I communicated was with Hope, and that was through emails.
Sure.
And that was the only way I can get through.
Well, you definitely leave your card with us, and you have our contact information, I'm sure. And
Are you thinking anything or just thinking?
guess we'd like to review it and come back to this in January at the end of our year, see where we stand fiscally,
I've been down
and try to
this
strike a
road
balance
before,
here. I do appreciate you coming out tonight, and I think we have a really nice road that we can be proud of. We didn't have many troubles on the road with the citizens. We began some brushing out there today because that was an issue all the way along. And I think we can be real proud of what we did. It's just that it was a little astounding to us to have come in so high over the estimated bid. So leave us your card and we'll negotiate, and after that, if you feel you need to come back in January, we do meet the second Tuesday in January at 8
Okay,
p.m.
so no meeting yet. Okay, got it.
We'll be in email contact though.
Okay.
All right,
So just to pick your brain a little bit, Steve, when you come into other projects, I know with the 4 inches of gravel and the existing blacktop and then the 2 inch and 1.5 inches, they did raise the road quite a bit, and that was somewhat of our objective to get, a little more of a uniform base, because the base under that road does have some organics to it. Do you suggest not putting gravel down and just pulverizing and repaving, because then that's only gonna bring you up, 3.5 inches, so then you don't get into a huge shouldering problem.
In that case, it does happen. Town of Dunn and Dunkirk, we did this year, we did just pulverize without adding stone to it. In your case on London Road, you didn't have a crown on that road. There was a lot of parts of that road that was actually inverted, where the center was lower than the edges. So by adding that stone, I think you guys needed to do that there. I think that was a must to get that crown up and still have enough support on your sides to get a 2% slope, which we put in that road now. That if you didn't do that, you'd have been cutting away at your original base after you pulverized on your edges.
Oh, okay,
And then
gotcha.
the edges of your road would have been sacrificed.
Sure, okay.
So by raising what you did there was the right way to do it.
And I agree with you, the road was all over. I found places that were 19.6, 16 feet. And I also found places that had a 5% slope. The inverted, which takes a lot of gravel, obviously, because you have to bring it up. And obviously the inverted is definitely not good, but, so.
And that's why the quantity on that part of it varied so much, because it's so hard unless you GPS it, which is not cheap to do. You get them quantities closer to that, that's the only way you'd be able to.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks for coming, you guys, we appreciate it. We'll work this out. Item B, update on the brushing needs on London Road. I already alluded to that. I met with those guys. We walked the road, looked at all the brushing needs, and I also put together sort of a list of what I required of them. Part of it was to use herbicide with a color treatment in it so that we can understand what they've hit and what they haven't. Neither one of them said yes to that as I dictated it to them, but I see today they started out there, and
They did.
we'll be visiting them again to make sure that they're doing what I asked them to do. I
Job
did tell them,
security.
as long as the weather was as nice as it is, that we could get as much work as we had budgeted allowed to get that done before the end of the year. So, that's the update on that. Item C, an update on the Gray Horse home sites, the outlots 1, 2, and 3. Interestingly enough, Sarah alerted me to the annual meeting of the Rock Lake Homeowners Association, so I attended that last night. Where they serve wine, by the way. And we
Doesn't
talked
matter,
a lot
yeah.
about the two outlets. We looked at the map. It seems that the homeowners association owns an outlot outright, which faces the outlot on Bridle Path. This outlot makes a complete crossing between Woodfield Lane and Bridle Path, and that they outrightly own that outlot. There are also 2 or 3 other public outlots that are dedicated to the town that I assume belong to the Rock Lake Homeowners Association in the Lake Terrace type neighborhood and in those sections. I guess we'd need to look at that map. I didn't bring it tonight. But it was interesting. It's been kind of an interesting process. When I went to the county, and you guys saw some of the emails back and forth with Mr. Sewell, we really can't give publicly dedicated land away. I was hoping we could give those outlots to them, but we need to retain the ownership of those. Certainly outlot 1, which is the yardway between Woodfield and Bridle Path. Outlet 2 is the dry pond, and outlet 3 is in an undeveloped area of Shorewood 3. And no one lives there, and there is no maintenance required there. So what I asked them to do was that we would indeed hold a title to those lands, or the public would hold a title to those lands, and that we would try to strike a maintenance agreement with the current homeowners who are at this time mowing those lots. They were going to approach those people about that. We need to accept the fact that we're going to need to do some maintenance on Outlot 2, the dry pond. And my suggestion would be that we work with land conservation to get a plan for that, so that we know what we're doing when we go in there. And then outlot 3, that we just kind of keep an eye on that as things develop. And that's what the homeowners association asked, is that we would keep them informed as things develop. Because I think whether this has gone cold now, it may heat up again in the future. And they don't want to make any decisions without knowing what's going to happen to those other lots and lands. I do think that we should look at that map together again and know, because the other thing that was brought up last night is that these outlots or paths were to be an amenity to that neighborhood, that they were to be the walking areas for people to go. It was supposed to be something that was very desirable. They've kind of fallen to rack and ruin. No one really owns them. That we need to kind of look at that and decide how we're going to maintain them and realize that they are part of our responsibility. I know you're sitting here with these tax bills, and they came to the town of Lake Mills. So what happened in the land information office is that Andy Erdman sought these out and told me that they had already been dedicated to the public. He then had that rekeyed in the system when they realized what had happened. Gray Horse asked me for some money back from those taxes that were paid. That question was answered by Mark Sewell too. There is a statute whereby they could go about recouping those funds over the last 15 years. The funds total some $700 and some. I think Julie basically acquiesced and said that if we would do some maintenance on the dry pond, that would kind of be a wash for them. I do think, though, that the tax bills were generated this year, again, because we're paying taxes from a year ago. I don't know, well, don't we, we're not paying, we're paying taxes, I'm not sure I understand that.
Okay.
So that we are paying taxes in January and July on properties that we used in the year 2015.
Yes.
And so this really wasn't resolved until just a month or two ago. So that's why the tax bills are still there. And they came addressed to us. So we have to pay taxes on the public lands.
You do
Do we
not.
really?
No, you
I
don't
wouldn't
pay,
think
government
so.
doesn't pay taxes.
Well, I was in great fear that these were going to be delivered to Julie's desk, and she was going to have a fit about it.
Well, I saw your email that said that from Andy that said that the assessor has to make it exempt for 2016. But he doesn't really,
Tell us what we're going to do about
Exactly.
this, about these taxes.
Because if they aren't here, they're gonna come up
Right.
as delinquent.
And there's 763, 153, and 5644. So it's not the end of the world. You know, and I said to Julie,
$5.
how come you paid these taxes all these years? And she said, I'm paying taxes on 40 lots in the town of Lake Mills. She never really looked at it. So I guess this is another detail that I'm gonna have to work out with the county. I know for a fact that Andy's on vacation because one of his emails was bounced back, but he should be back. I'll see if I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
It got real complicated. It's one of those things that was never recorded at the time when the rest of the roads and the roadways and the signs were dedicated to us, so it's probably a good thing that it happened.
Either that or we have to pay for them and then petition to get the money back until it gets straightened around.
I guess, back to the county.
Yep.
I think I did kind of ask Andy if there was anything else I had to do. When did these show up?
When I got the text. Last Monday.
Okay.
Last Monday.
Where is our Christmas present? You don't have them all enveloped up for us?
We just own it.
Sent it to you.
Yeah, you
Oh,
don't
you
have
couldn't
it.
bear it, could you?
Well, you know, next year you will really want them in advance.
Well,
Then your phone is gonna ring.
back to the, trying to get it straightened out and trying to work with the homeowners association on maintenance of those lots.
Right.
Um,
When were I'm assuming you have Patricia take a look at the.
yeah,
the-
sometime this winter, as long as it's nice now, maybe I can get her out there.
Because if there's a bunch of trees and brush, it needs to go.
Yeah, and there is, right in the middle of the pond. I just don't want to do anything until we have some, either that or we could go back to our engineers and ask them. But I thought we'd go through the county first and
Yeah.
see what we
Speaking
can
of
come
the
up with.
engineers,
Mhm,
we also received bills from the engineer and the attorney,
mhm.
and I'm assuming that you want me to just copy those and send an invoice to Kason? Is that correct? Or do you want me to pay them and then recoup it?
No, I think that would be appropriate, that you communicate what we have invoiced.
Okay,
We didn't pay any of those bills this month. We
Right.
haven't paid them. We'll wait and do that in January. And I guess we can work that out with the Cason Corporation.
okay.
Because I think he knew that up front that that would be the way it would go
Well, at some point.
at some point. All right, so I was kind of looking for those in the invoices, but I assumed that they hadn't come in. So
No,
why
they
don't
just
you
came just last week. Both of
forward
them.
that stuff in and then we'll get it on our January agenda. Anything else on those outlots? It's been kind of a difficult thing, but I think it's been a real learning thing for me to understand that process and to see exactly in that homeowner's area where those amenity trails are.
What is the one that's down by your house? Is that an outlot or is that just a dedicated access deeded to the lake?
What are you talking about?
Then what are you talking about?
The one that's down by, on Cedar Lane that goes to the
Well,
lake?
that is attached to 5 different properties.
Oh, it is, okay.
So those
So
are,
that's
their lake
different.
rates extended in
Okay.
5 different homeowners.
Okay.
And if you recall, we had a kind of go-around about the taxes and the assessment on that a number of years ago. Item D, an update on the dispute with the drainage board. Our attorney is working on this, and I guess what we've come to understand is we are going to have a discussion with them at our January meeting. And we pretty much have decided to present the facts as we know them. Lee was going to get a little help from Steve Strauss again. If you recall, we had an email from him and the state drainage board people. He's an engineer there. I think that we'll just be bringing the facts forward and try to come to some agreement with the drainage board. So that, again, will be on our agenda in January. Item E, an update on the Stony Creek Road signs. After our last meeting, I decided that I was going to take a nighttime ride. And so I drove out to Stony Creek, and that again was a good learning experience. We as a group have done lots of improvements in the road signs on many of our roads, and after driving that at night, which I never really had, I could see that there are quite a few of those directional signs that are not very reflective anymore. And so I took your request, Dorothy, back to the county highway sign guys. They looked at the speeds. They were going to run their equipment on the speeds for the speed advisory signs, but I instructed them to replace and re-sign some of those curves. Also add those 30 mile an hour, if that is truly what they wanted to do. They were going to run their equipment on it. Those speed advisory signs at 30 miles an hour. And also look at the dead end signage. There is a dead end sign at the very beginning of the road, and we were going to look at the guardrail at the very end to see if there was any more signage that might be needed. Also, I said, as long as we were doing it, perhaps we should put those stripes down the directional signs, you know, like we did on North Shore Road, where the yellow tape goes not only from the sign, but down to the
Down the
ground on the
post.
sign post.
Yeah.
So those guys are working on that right now. That should be done. I think it's a really good move to redo most of the signage on that road. So that's in the process, and in the process of that, there was another sign that was determined to be down there. It was replaced, and I think it's in the wrong place, so we got to go back to the drawing board.
That email that I sent
Yeah.
you? Okay. All right.
The devil is in the details with the sign crew.
So is it gonna be 30 miles an hour or not?
Well, it's a 45-mile-an-hour road, but the
Yep.
speed advisory sign is a smaller sign that goes below the curves.
And it's yellow.
And it's yellow, and it says, the advisory states a 30-mile-an-hour.
Right, okay. Because that's what the minutes say is
Yeah.
30 miles an hour, so.
And I don't expect to hear anything different from those sign guys,
Okay.
but. So that's an expense that we're gonna bear, to get that up to snuff. Anybody got any questions about that? Sure.
I work at 3 o'clock in the morning to milk cows. Is it okay?
Oh, sure.
I wasn't sure if I was
Oh, sure.
home. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
You bet.
Glad you came.
Thank you. I'm glad I came too. Thank you.
Thanks, Dorothy. Item 10, new business. A is the appointment of election inspectors for 2016-18. Sure you got a list.
Yeah, actually it's a misprint, it's 17, sorry. I was thinking 2 years, it's actually 2 calendar years.
So it's 2016 to 2017. All right.
There you go.
You want me to read them, Sarah?
I will if you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Jean Corbin, Diana Schrader, Jeannie Taylor, Allison Schmeiser, Joan Reinick, Carl Glassford, Margaret Hanrahan, Corinne McNoney, Chris Bond, Jennifer Popowski, Marion Ward, Robin Unz, Lori Lawrence, Jennifer Breaker, Joseph Fitzgibbon, Linda Zwicker, Stacy Ramish, Deb Galstead, and Jerry Schultz.
Super.
And we always have the option of adding more as needed. By this time, by November of 2016 will likely be the case, but.
What does this chief train mean?
Chief trained, so everybody is an election inspector, but then, at any given time during the election, someone is in charge other than myself. I'm overseeing and I'm there to, you know, if we need to run for something or if there's a big problem or something, I'm free to do that because there's a chief who's in charge on site at all times. So
Okay.
those people have taken an extra training through the Government Accountability Board to be designated chief inspector.
Okay.
So, any other questions? I would motion to approve the nomination of the election inspectors for 2016 and 17.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? I guess just to inform the public, if anyone would like to be trained as an election inspector or to receive that extra step in chief training, I'm sure Sarah would love to have you give her a call or send her an email so that you can get on that list. All in favor of approving the election inspectors, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Item B, board expense sheet approval. Anybody got expenses?
Not receiving any.
All right, seeing none, on to item 11, correspondence.
All right. Well, I gave you in your packets the contract that I received from Forest Landscaping with the changes for this year. I didn't put it in, there's really nothing
You
to
don't have to
discuss,
do that, yeah.
so I put it in correspondence.
3% or so.
And so this +4, +3,
That's over
+50
last year.
actually is a dollar amount, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
not a percentage.
Nope.
All right, okay.
And on
Alright.
on the second page there, that's last year's contract with what he added last year, so
Right, right.
a little more
I
of an
figured.
increase this year than we had last year.
All right,
All right. Do you remember a couple months ago, we had Charlie Eggert, attorney here for Mr. Setz,
yes.
who has contacted us through our attorney, stating that we overcharged him for his condo, what is it called? Condo plat fee. Let me just read this email.
Yeah, go ahead.
An issue's been raised by attorney Charlie Eggert, who represents Kenneth Setz. He claims that $500 plus $100 per condo unit for reviewing the same is excessive and not supported by a reasonable relationship that has to exist between the fee imposed and the services provided. see attachment, there's a code section excerpt attached. He's requesting the town to lower the condominium review fee. I did some looking into the matter and I have attached some of the applicable statutes, but not the agenda, minutes, and application for land division as you already have them. From a legal standpoint, I have no opinion as it seems more like an administrative decision. A few other points, but that's the gist of it. Want me to read the whole thing or is that enough?
No, that's enough.
Okay.
He states the review fee from the town was $1,200 and from the county it was $50. The county only charges $250 for a subdivision renew. He indicated they paid $1,200, but then stated it was $500 plus $100 a unit.
I think that it does add up because it was 7 units. There was 3 houses, but there were some outbuildings too.
You know, and I don't really know, I don't really know how we would go about refunding him. I guess it seems like our fees are in our ordinance and,
Yeah, it's like, why do we need to talk about this?
Yeah, it seemed like they were applied correctly.
It's right here, yeah. It's,
and I guess I'm very satisfied that they went through the process that they went through. I think they were creative in pulling this together as a condominium plat so that everybody kind of got what they wanted.
Doesn't really look like he's asking for a refund. It just says he's requesting the town lower the condominium review fee. He's really not asking us to. Do you read it that way?
Well, yeah, it doesn't really say, could we have some money back?
Right.
He's comparing us to the cost of the county.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think the county really cared, other than the certified document that I had to sign off on.
Yeah.
The county didn't have anything else to do with it. It wasn't, they didn't have administrative fees, they didn't have them on a board of adjustment or anything like that.
Yeah, and nothing was said at the time. I think we should just let it ride.
Oh, okay.
I agree.
yeah.
The consensus is that we will
It's correspondence.
let it go.
Okay, a workshop, for local land use officials. You guys might want to look at this one, January 27th, 2016. It's going to be in Whitewater. The workshop is designed for plan commissioners, elected officials, and others with an interest in learning more about their role in making local planning, zoning, and land use decisions. Also, we'll be discussing how to hold public meetings / hearings and make legally and ethically sound decisions. And there's a website referenced here to look up a workshop for the brochure. Workshop brochure. I also have this We Energy's upcoming project correspondence that I think I saw an email from you going back to him, so I wasn't sure if we needed to talk about that or not.
Well, this is kind of an interesting project. I don't really know exactly what the deal is here. They have come to us, We Energies has come to us and with plans to rebuild electric facilities in part of the town of Lake Mills. And they require a short-term show-up site for crews to park vehicles, construction supplies, a job trailer, etc. They have been granted a conditional use permit of this type before by Jefferson County, and I simply replied to them and said, we need more details. Maybe we have a site that we could guide them to. Maybe they've already picked out a site, but it looks like we're going to have to give them some kind of temporary conditional use to do that. But I needed more details.
Okay.
Yeah, where's the project at?
I don't really know. And I did get several requests for other work that's being done by We Energies, boring under roads and stuff like that, which there was a batch of about 3 that I sent. I usually don't have any trouble with them unless they decide they're going to cut into the roadway, which they have done in the past. I kind of try to keep an eye on what's going on. But I did send those 3 or 4 request back. But I have not received anything back from this guy on
Do you
the,
want me to work with him, or do you want to work with him?
well, if we could get some more details,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay,
Why don't you send him a repeat email and ask
Sure.
him to send us some more details, and then we'll know a little better about what we're, I guess I'd like to ask the county on how they've handled it too, you know, this conditional use.
okay.
Is that something that would go through our planning commission and our town board and then on to the county for the true conditional use? Or is this something we simply have to say, okay, we understand what you're doing and you can use this area? I don't know if they lease land from somebody or if they do it on a right of way or.
Yeah, well, that there would pertain to a right of way.
Yeah, that's what he says. Right-of-way agent is what his title is.
Yeah, but where?
Right, well, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And then I have yard waste dates for 2016. I've already posted them to the website. They are May 14th, November 5th, and November 19th. We had some issues this time, and I know we always seem to have one house maybe that gets missed, maybe not always, but it's happened. But this time we had several, and it was a case where when they sent me the dates at this time last year, they had the last one in November being a week later, which was actually Thanksgiving weekend, and I said, can you bump it up a week? Sure, no problem, 21st. Well, it didn't get communicated across the board, and there happened to be that snowstorm the night before, so I just assumed they didn't come because of the snowstorm, and it turned out that it was because they didn't have the right date on somebody's calendar. So there were some problems there, but but even then, it seems like it's happening more and more, and I've seen a lot of new names on correspondence over there too. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard from Brian. I haven't asked Brian, but just so you know, there's some issues. There's some unhappy residents.
But they quickly picked up all
They
those.
did come
that were-
back. I noticed there's still one more that I told them about. It's still out there, so I'll have to call again.
If you want help with that, I'm happy to do that.
Well, they seem to be responsive, but
They're
yeah.
very
I'll keep-
responsive
I'll let you know.
usually. Keep them on the speed dial though.
Yeah, yep. Scott Construction sent us a thank you and also some comment cards, if
Okay.
you want to do those. And they also sent us a Christmas card. And we got a Rainbow Hospice Care newsletter for the fall of 2015. And I gave you the annexation letters. And that's it.
So we got all these annexation letters.
Okay.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4,
We can't contest them either.
and a
That's
petition for annexation,
probably the ETZ
and
agreement.
the paperwork involved. These annexation petitions are all coming from the Pyramid Motel and Liquor site and other sites surrounding that, the Simden property, and
Some of them are duplicate, they're just
Yeah.
the same properties with different paperwork related.
And this paperwork that you see here, the annexation review questionnaire, I already filled out for the Simden property and sent back. But there must be more of them.
Where is this Simnum property?
Between the Pyramid Hotel and the graveyard.
Oh, okay.
That's for the extension of Elm Street.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess I knew this was coming. We sort
Yeah.
of knew this was
I
coming.
was wondering why we hadn't heard anything.
I think it's just starting to come together.
Okay.
So I don't think they really require any action. That's just our
It's a
notification.
notification because in the ATZ, we cannot contest.
That's right. The annexation questionnaire, the questionnaire that the Department of Administration asks to have back is pretty clear cut. what they're looking for. Is it easier, would it be easier for us to provide the utilities to them, or would it be make more sense for the city to do that? And of course, we know the answer to that question.
Yes. So then Linden Street still stays ours then?
Lennon Street is still ours. Elm Street makes a jog up through there.
Yeah. Because we already gave them that other chunk, so we could stop doing the maintenance on it. That was done many years ago.
And I've had some communication with Martin Lira, who will be an island there in that annexation process. Of course, he's concerned about what might happen, and I asked him to keep me in the loop as far as his
Well,
negotiations go.
islands are illegal. It has to be connected to something. Just saying.
As this goes along, these are the details that need to be worked out. I just want you guys to know what's going down. That's why we thought we would share these during correspondence, since there really isn't any action that we need to take.
Right.
There may be some action that we need to take, or there may be some forced annexation, and I don't know how that's gonna fly.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other correspondence?
No,
No other Christmas cards?
not yet.
Darn it.
Still time.
All right.
Yeah, little hate mail, but
Item number 12, meeting scheduled. Coming right up on the first of the year, January 5th is the Planning Commission. Also January 5th, the Joint Rock Lake Committee at 6, Planning Commission at 8, and there will be a meeting this month. January 12th is our regular town board meeting, and you see we already have a couple more things that we're gonna have to delve into and to prepare for that meeting, so. Anything else?
No.
Oh, that's plenty. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Thank you.